Well, let me sit down. So for this practice, you might want to have something like a blanket or a small cushion or something like that for you, just to cushion joints, make yourself a little more comfortable. If you have blocks like this, grab them. If you don't have blocks, a book or something that's shaped like this will do as well. These are a little bit soft though, so maybe a blanket or something rolled around it. A stiff cushion would work, anything like that. Other things I have here, I have my phone so I can keep track of time. And I have my cup of tea. So you definitely want to be comfortable in the morning. Good morning. So if you need a chance to go get those things, do that now. Otherwise, I'd like to begin today a little bit differently than in the past, in a kneeling position. So you might come towards the back of your mat, kind of like I am, with your hips down on your heels. Now this, for me, like when I first started doing yoga, this was like agony for me. So there's a couple of ways you can make that more comfortable. One is taking a block and putting it between your ankles, and you can just sit on that. Take some of the weight off your lower legs. Or you can take a blanket and just lay it across the backs of your calves, and it makes like a little hammock, and you can just sit down into that little hammock. If those two things don't help you out to be more comfortable, go ahead and sit in any way that is comfortable for you. So if you want to sit cross-legged or with your legs extended or anything like that, for this first few moments, we can go ahead and do that. Otherwise, lengthen, just like always, turn the tailbone down, lengthen up through the spine. Roll the shoulders back and down. And shut your eyes. Feel nice and light in the body on the inhale. Then as you exhale, sink into the hips, feel the gravity. Feel yourself weighty and substantial. And then on the inhale, airy and light. Just tune into the rhythms of your breath. See how you are feeling in this moment. Taking this time Sunday morning for ourselves. Just a few breaths here, a few more breaths. Now, I think I've done this with you in the past. This is a nice opportunity to do the white light meditation. So imagine or bring your focus to the base of your spine. Imagine there a white light, a bright, hot, white, hot light. And as you inhale, draw that light up the length of your spine, paying attention to every little bit of the journey, all the way to the crown of the head. And then as you exhale, draw that light back down towards the base of your spine. And continue to move the light in this fashion, inhaling to bring it to the crown of your head, exhaling it to drop it back down, right into the spot between your hips, right down to the tailbone. As you sit and breathe here, try to match the amount of time it takes to bring your light up to the crown of your head as it takes to bring that light back down to the tailbone. So that the light is always moving. And you can imagine that that light is your energy. That it's your energy moving throughout your body. And that you are moving it, channeling it around your body, intentionally moving it with your breath. Just a few more cycles of breath here. And then at the end of your next exhale, let's just bring that light back down to the tailbone and tuck it away, knowing that energy is there for you all day long. And softly open the eyes. Let's just reach the fingertips forward now, taking the weight off of the ankles, the low legs. Come to a tabletop pose. Tuck your low belly in. Let's take a couple of cat-cows here. So you're gazing down between the thumbs, tip the tailbone up, roll the shoulders back, heart comes forward while the crown of the head reaches for the ceiling. Exhale to turn it around, tailbone down, round the spine, tuck the chin. Opening the front of the body on the inhale, and one more cow belly or angry cat as we come exhale. Inhale to center. Now this time I want you to turn your toes under. We're going to come to a low squat. So you can bring your feet, your knees to the width of the mat. Walk your hands in towards your knees. And then once they get there, lift your knees and roll over the bottom of your feet. We're coming to a low yogi squat. We're right at the back of the mat. And here you can swing around on your hips a little bit till you're comfortable. Maybe your heels are on the mat, or maybe they're up. If they're up and that's not comfortable, you can roll up the back of your mat and set your heels on them, or maybe use your blanket. My aim here is that your hips are very low and heavy. If this is uncomfortable for you as well, you can take your block or your cushion and sit right on it, so that you can let the hips come down and the heart be up above. Elbows are between the knees, helping them stay open, but in a really gentle way. And you can stay here with your spine long. Just keep your neck involved in the spine. And this is a nice opportunity to bring that white light back out and breathe it, move it through your body, along your spine. Or if you like, you can tuck the chin, bring the fingertips to the mat, and breathe into the back of the body. So there's some choice here. Wherever you are, we'll be here for about 10 breaths. Taking this time for ourselves, I find, is really important. I'm really enjoying these morning practices, because I find that they're because we're all working from home. This is a wonderful way to carve out some time, to delineate time for yourself at home. Otherwise, we can be just continually, with work inside your home, you can be continually looking to do more. To take this time to carve away time for yourself. Sort of set the barrier between your work life and your home life by having some time on your own. I know many of us, we had our time on our own during our commute. Could listen to podcasts or whatever, and that time is suddenly gone. So it's important to still find it. Find time for your alone time, for your time just to be with yourself, listening to yourself. Okay, so from here, wherever you are, bring your fingertips to the mat and lean into those fingertips a little bit so you can lift your hips, drop the crown of your head, pivot on your heels to bring your toes facing forward, and just hold opposite elbow here in a standing dangle. Your knees are soft, so I'm not all about like having straight knees and touching the floor here. This is more about stretching out the low back. So your knees can be very soft to allow this stretch to come into the low back. And you might want to sway here a little bit. For sure, tuck your head, shake your head out so that the length of your spine is elongating. The weight of your head is just adding some traction here. Here for about 10 breaths. This pose is called a waterfall pose, or maybe sometimes ragdoll. So I think you're meant to imagine a ragdoll on a clothesline with a little clothespin holding it up by the back of its pants. So really let yourself just pour out of your pelvis. And this time, your shoulders can puddle up around your ears. I don't often say that. Just let everything go. Let your head be the weight, adding traction to the length of your spine. Your fingertips to the mat now. Begin to walk your hands forward. You can come up onto your toes and bring your knees down onto the mat. Bring your feet till they're about hip width apart and keeping your toes curled under. You're just going to sit on the toes for just a moment, stretching out the bottom of the feet. I know this pose can be really intense. If it's way too intense, you can come up, stand up on your knees, or you can tuck a block in underneath your knees to reduce the angle on the front of your ankle, still getting a stretch on the back of your foot. But we'll just be here for a few more breaths. So try to sit through it with equanimity. And then when you've had enough, you can begin to bring your hands down once again in front of the knees. This time walk forward till you're coming to like a low plank pose, and then bend your elbows back towards the back of the mat, lowering all the way down onto the mat. Bring your hands, your shoulders underneath your elbows, coming to Sphinx pose. So bring your shoulders underneath the elbows, roll the shoulders back, bring the heart forward. Legs are very relaxed here. You can bring your feet like to the width of the mat and then even let your toes or your heels hang open. Lay all the way up your legs. Should be very relaxed. Till your glutes relaxed. And then until you get to your tailbone, and then just turn your tailbone down slightly so that you get a little bit of engagement in the core to support the low back. And then the rest of your back has sort of a very gentle back bend. Now, if this back bend is too intense for you, walk your hands forward. to reduce the angle of the back bend, and just walk your hands forward until you have a back bend that is comfortable for you. Otherwise, you can stay up, roll the shoulders back. Let's take a few breaths here. If you're enjoying this stretch exactly the way it is, it should stay like this. If, however, you would like to add a little more sensation onto this stretch, we can do a quad stretch. So we're going to bring our right hand to the inside of the left elbow, so the forearm sort of just underneath the chest, so that we can press into the hand, the forearm. Bend the left knee, bring the sole of the foot up towards the ceiling, the heel in towards your sits bone, getting a cramp. And then reach the left hand forward, up and back. Take that left heel and just draw it in towards your sits bone. Now, the first thing that's going to want to happen is your sits bones, your butt's going to want to slide up towards your heel. Don't let that happen. Keep the hip bones pressed evenly into the mat. So think about right and left here. And draw the heel in towards the sits bone. So now you've got a little bit of a back bend going. A quad stretch, you might be feeling it right up through the hip flexor. And maybe a little bit of the front of your left shoulder. Try and stay relaxed in your right leg. Try not to dump too much into your right shoulder, so lift the heart up and out, up and forward, so that you're lifting up out of that right shoulder. 3 more breaths here. Then you can release that left foot. Bring your left forearm back down onto the mat. Right forearm, fingertips reach forward while the left ones come across the front of the mat now. Bending the right knee. I'm having a problem with my left and right today. Bending the left knee, bring the heel in towards the sits bone. Watch what happens with your hips. Realign them if you need to. And then reach the right hand forward, up and back. Take the left heel and bring it in towards the sits bone. So we still want to be feeling no compression in the low back here. So if you're starting to release somewhere, release part of this pose so that you can not be feeling compression or discomfort in the low back. These long, slow, gentle back bends are a really nice way to start the day. Back bends do encourage energy circulation throughout the body. So they're a nice thing to include in a yin practice in the morning. Two more breaths here. Let's release that right foot back down onto the mat. Bring both hands forward now. Stack one hand over the other, and then let your elbows come wide as you bring your forehead down onto the back of your hands. Notice how your spine feels as you lengthen out of this back bend. Breathe into the back body. Breathe into the sensation of length. From here, you can bring your hands next to your chest and pull up to tabletop. This might be a nice moment to do some circles with your body. Moving the hips and shoulders together, go one way and or the other. Just move around a little bit. It's nice to have these little moving breaks between the stillness of yin. Now, if you have a block, bring it onto the mat just in between your hands. Bring your knees wide. We're going to come to a child's pose. Big toes together, knees are wide, even off the mat if you're feeling really flexible. And then slide your hips back over the heels. Bring your forehead down onto the mat or onto a block if the mat feels really far away. But an option I wanted to talk about today is using your block by bringing your hands to like prayer position, but sandwiching your block with your hands. Bring your forehead down. Walk the elbows forward a little bit. And then bring that block up over the back of your head. And walk the elbows in and forward. Sink the hips back and down. And this gets a nice stretch through the shoulders. Now, if you don't like this, you could try it without the block, bringing the hands to prayer and bringing your thumbs to the nape of your neck. Or you can ditch it all together and just reach your hands forward. And relax into this pose. Reaching forward in a way that's comfortable. The palms, the forearms, the elbows are down on the mat. So a bunch of choices for you here. And stay here. So we'll stay here for a few moments. So feel the breath moving through the back body. Feel the length, the stretch, the space you're creating in the side body, the shoulders, the low back. To come out of this pose, just reach the hands forward if you've had them back over the nape of your neck. Maybe for one breath, one cycle of breath, you can really reach the hands forward. Bring the elbows, the forearms up off the mat. Maybe tent the fingers. Slide the hips back a little bit more. Just really open up through the back of the body. And then let's float up through tabletop. Bring your knees in. And make your way to your seat any way that is comfortable for you. You can cross your ankles and rock over your feet. Bring your block just next to the mat where you're going to be able to reach it. Slide your hips to the center of the mat, and we're going to come down onto our backs now. So use your fingertips to support yourself behind you as you lower your spine all the way down. Now I'd like to finish this practice with a reclined back bend, a supported bridge pose. So we're going to take the block, and if you're using a stiff cushion or a rolled up blanket or some books or whatever you're using, we're going to just press into the heels, lift the hips, and slide that underneath your hips. Now I want you to be careful that you have it right underneath the bony part of your pelvis, not underneath your spine or your vertebrae in any way. I want it to be, we don't want you supporting yourself on the vertebrae. So make sure you're on the bony part of the pelvis. And then from here, we can do, you can arrange your arms and legs whatever way you like. You can bring your feet wide to the width of the mat and knock your knees in. Or you can turn your feet so that the soles of your feet are together and the knees are knocking open, like a reclined butterfly. Or you can extend your heels down to the far corners of the mat and really stretch out through the front of the hip flexors. Hands can rest one on your heart and one on your tummy. so that you can feel your breath moving across the body. You can cup your rib cage too. This is a nice way to feel the breath in this pose. So they can rest on the mat next to your hips, or you can reach them overhead like a cactus or a Y, or hold opposite elbows. Again, stretching out through the front of the body. Whatever you've chosen, just breathe deep and easy here. Again, back bends are a nice way to start to get the energy channeling and moving, circulating through your body. So as you're breathing, think about that. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get your block in the exact right spot that feels good. So if you're needing to mess with it, just mess with it until you have it right. And then commit to being still in this pose. This is one of those poses where the more you release any muscular effort and just let the skeleton drape over the block, the more benefit you're going to get. We can't push ourselves more deeply into this pose. We can only release and surrender to it. Now from here, I'd like to come out of this pose and move directly into Savasana. If you're really enjoying this pose and you want to stay, you can take Savasana just like this. But it is nice to come out of it and lie on your back for a few minutes for a few moments at least, before you come up to sit. I'm going to come out of it now and then spend a little bit of time in corpse pose. So I'm going to bring the soles of my feet to the mat, hip width apart, and press into the feet just enough to lift the hips so that I can take that block out from underneath my body. And slowly lower the spine back down onto the mat. Hands can rest next to the hips, and extend the feet back down onto the mat, to the length of the mat. Let your toes fall open, and once again breathe into the area of the spine that you can feel lengthening out of the back bend. Roll the whole heads of your shoulders back down towards the mat. Open up through the heart and breathe easy here. Before we come out of Savasana, take this time once again to notice the length of the spine. Notice that energy, that main energy pathway in our body. See how you're feeling. Check in with yourself again. How you're feeling in comparison to the beginning of practice. And you can begin to draw that energy out from the spine towards your extremities, towards your fingers and toes. Give yourself them a little wiggle, a little stretch, starting to bring the energy throughout the body, turning the ankles and the wrists, the head from side to side, beginning to make any small movement that feels good for you, stretching into the entire length of the body, and then drawing your knees up into your chest. Maybe make some circles on the ceiling with your knees. One last little massage for the low back. You can go in one direction and then the other, in whatever way feels good for you. And then from here, you can roll to one side or the other, coming to the fetal position. A couple of easy breaths here. And when you are ready, make your way up to sit. Take your time. Keep your eyes shut. Find your hips settled down onto the mat in whatever seat is comfortable for you. Lengthen up the spine, roll the shoulders back. Finally, bring the crown of the head high. Keep your eyes shut here. You can get out your little white light again. That intense white light represents your energy. One breath here to draw it up to the crown of the head. And then bring it back down to the base of the spine. Put that white light away. And next inhale, you can open your eyes. Bring the fingertips up to the ceiling. Exhale, the thumbs to the third eye. And hinge forward. This is our final pose for today. Namaste. I hope you enjoyed this practice, and I hope you have a really great day. Thanks for coming out to join me.